Hello everyone, it's Doodle here, and I have a game all set up. Apparently it is my turn, so I better get into it real quick. Play all. And let's see, what do I have available to buy for starting out? I think, you know what? Federation Shuttle is not horrible for a starter card. Boy, I would not mind the supply bot, but I only have 2 left now, so I think I'm going to go another shuttle. And I'm going to go a blob fighter since now I'm down to 1. Keep seeing cards come up that I would have liked to have had, and there we go again. So let's end that turn and see what happens. And I may occasionally back out of the game. Those of you who are not familiar with playing the Star Realms digital app may not be aware of this, but it's every once in a while a little buggy about letting you know that your opponent has played and continuing with the game. Sometimes it seems to be helpful if you back out. So I might do that, and I'll probably cut when I do that. So if you see me hit the menu button and then it jumps back into things, you know why that's happening. But it looks like the game is continuing. So they bought a couple of scrappers. Which scrappers did they buy? Let's see. The supply bot, 2 trade and a scrap ability, and the missile bot. So a nice variety. I am going to play all my cards up here and see what we get for trade. We can buy... I don't want to... I think I'm going to buy the missile bot and probably the battle pod because I could use some scrap myself. And a little bit of damage would not be amiss. I'd kind of rather get some trade, but there isn't a lot for options for that right now. I would have rather have had the supply bot, but there we go. Do 1 to the face, end my turn, and see what happens. And let's see, I got a blob fighter and a Federation shuttle. I'm not going to draw that card without the faction ability, so I'm not going to get my 2 authority either. But I will have 2, 3, 4 trade, and I'll have 4 damage. That's nice distribution, but don't think they have any bases yet, unless I'm mistaken. So that's what they have for that, and that is their hand. They're not going to be doing a whole lot either. They're probably buying a supply bot or a ram. Supply bot was the correct call. So what do I get? I get 4 of each, I believe is what I said. I didn't really figure out what I was going to buy. Don't have a lot of trade, do I? Well, I have a couple shuttles, so it's not horrible. I think I'm better than them on that issue. I do have a green so far, so maybe a little bit more green would not be amiss. I like the ram. The ram, I gotta say, is not a bad card. And now they can get the cutter, which it's a really good card, especially since it's still fairly early game. We're on, what, deck 2 here for both of us. Do that point of damage and call it a turn. And now it is back to Matt Johns. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you happen to watch this, Matt Johns, let me know how horribly I'm screwing up your name. What are they going to do? They might have 2 reds. That's a possibility. It's a small possibility, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. They probably have a supply bot and starter cards is my guess. There's a supply bot, and there's... Oh, 2, and that's a decent amount of combat. They factioned there. What did they buy? I did not even catch what they bought. I think they bought the trade pod now? I'm not sure. No, they bought the cutter, obviously. Or maybe I'm just completely backwards. Whatever. Oh yeah, I get to scrap something in the trade row. I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. I don't really like that. So what am I going to scrap? What are they going to have? They're not going to get my battle blob that I would really like. So I think I'm going to scrap the blob destroyer because I think I can get to it before them. Don't know for sure. Nothing is ever certain. I'm in green pretty heavily, so I think I'm going to take the battle pod. And why can't I do that? What's going on here? I can do damage to them. Now I can buy the battle pod. I'm not sure what the heck that was about. I think that might be a bug. Maybe I'm just an idiot and I didn't notice something going on that I should have noticed. But we shall see. I got 1 scrapper and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of buying power, which is disappointing. I would really, really like to have had 6, but I think I would have needed to get a really good draw on that. But I don't think they're getting to 6 yet either, so I'm not super worried about that. But it is possible if they get a trade pod in those, so I probably have to worry about that a lot in one more turn. Probably not this turn. That is a little disappointing. I was hoping I would get lucky, and I did not, and that's what they got. So I get to play all my cards. I'm going to play that one first and get my scrapping taken care of before I forget. I'm going to scrap a Viper because there's still enough stuff I want to buy. I'll play all the rest of these, and I get up to 5. I'm not bad in blue, so a trade escort is not a horrible choice either. If I can faction that and draw just once during the game, I think that's really going to help out. Do some damage. End my turn. And I get to faction at my very next turn. That is beautiful. I'm going to heal for 8. I'm going to do 4 points of damage from him, 4 points of damage from him, draw a card. Who knows what that draw is going to bring. We're both getting up there a little slower than I would think is usual. Again, I am not the biggest expert on Star Realms, but in my experience, it usually goes a little faster than this. Okay, we got a green and a yellow. So I think the first thing I want to do is activate my draw. So see what I get there. Yep, I have nothing to discard. What am I going to have? 2, 3, 4 trade. And if I do this, if I scrap a scout, I will be down to 3. I don't think that's the end of the world right now. I don't want the freighter at this point. It's a little late in the game for that. What is it faction to do? It's not bad, but that's a lot to spend on just more purchasing power right now. Would have been better, of course, if I'd had something in the discard, but that's not how it lined up. So what do I want to scrap? I think... Oh, he has those in there, and his 5... So what are the odds? He's probably going to get 2, 3, 4. I think I'm going to scrap Battle Blob. As much as I would like it, I really don't want him to get it. So I'm going to go ahead and scrap that. Play my other scout. A trade pod is not great. Actually, I think I'm going to take the Imperial Fighter, and I'm probably going to scrap it the first time it comes out. That's what I think I'm going to do. So I have bought it. I haven't scrapped it yet because it hasn't shown up. And my next hand is just beautifully horrible. Which makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Unfortunately, it is what it is. It is a horrible hand. The Blob Fighter would be great with 1 more blob. I wouldn't even care if it was, a trade pod. It would still be wonderful. They'd both give each other a little bonus. But I have 4 scouts and a Blob Fighter, so my next turn is going to be awful. I don't know what their next turn is going to be. It's been playing pretty quickly so far, but they are taking a little bit more time on this turn, and I'm guessing that means they have a couple of scrappers and don't want to scrap more than the scout, or perhaps it means something else. What else do they have? That's their hand possibilities. I don't know what they're thinking about. They are probably thinking about what to buy. Perhaps they're weighing the options of Port of Call versus Imperial Fighter just to have another draw. That might have been what they were thinking about. If they'd have known that my turn was going to be so horrible, they probably wouldn't have worried and just laughed and gone on. Now what do? I wouldn't mind the authority from the Bartle World, but I'm kind of not sold on that as a great card. I think where I'm at right now, I wouldn't mind a little more scrap ability, even if I'm going to have to faction to get it. And the flexibility of the patrol mech is probably my best bet. Normally this is a little overcosted of a card, but I don't really like the rest of what's up here for options, so I'm going to take it. And of course I flip the flagship for my opponent, which is probably going to be an absolutely horrible thing. They're going to get 6 this turn, is a fairly likely chance with what they had in their deck. Actually, I don't know. I can look now, can I? 2, 3, 4... Oh, they got 8. They've got the flagship, and they're probably going to leave the rest of their spending unused unless something decent like a cutter, or I don't know what else is for 2 that they might want to actually pick up. With what they've got, I don't know. They've got a very heavy discard. Ooh, there we go. They're scrapping the scout. They're doing that. They got the flagship. Of course they did. They scrapped an explorer, I do believe. I don't know for sure. I wasn't quite watching as well as I should have. So I have no abilities that are going to trigger that make me worry about playing all, so I'm just going to play all. I've got 4. We're really getting slowly through this. Getting slowly. We're getting slowly through this game. 4 is a recycling station, and I'm thinking 3 more for the blob wheel. I just have had so little scrap that I think I want that to show up. I think I'm going to scrap my ram, and I'm going to take a blob wheel. I'm going to do 6 and my turn and see what comes up this next time. Come on, a couple of greens to faction. That would be nice. Yeah, that's not too bad. None of the abilities I was really hoping would faction, but a couple points of damage extra doesn't hurt. I'm not going to get a lot of trade unless I choose to scrap my blob wheel and choose trade from this guy. That would be 6 points, plus possibly the scout, but nope, I'm not going to faction him, so I don't get to scrap a card. And this guy, ooh, that's a decent amount of damage. Although I might want to draw a card because I could either get, I'm looking for either an extra draw card. I'm not going. The bad thing that could happen if I use my scrap ability to draw a card is that I will draw my trade escort, which has otherwise a decent chance of factioning, especially if I can get the recycling station out before it. But I'm kind of the opinion that you take those chances and you hope for it, especially when you're down, but I'm not down. The bad side of that is if I'd have drawn yellow, I would have, oh well, that was pretty much wasted, but I don't particularly need yellow in my deck, so what are we going to say? What we're going to say is that I can get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points of purchasing power if I want. And Macworld counts as an ally for all factions. Is not bad. I think it's probably the best thing out here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take it. And ooh, I probably should have scrapped a card in the trade row first. What does my opponent want? They're actually really diversified. I kind of want to prevent them from getting green more than anything, but there's no green up here to do. So yellow, probably. So I'm going to do space station. It's really not a great time to use it, in my opinion. There, if they want to take the survey ship, go for it. Play all. I can take the mech world and then see if there's anything for 3 that I want to take, but I think I'll probably just leave the blob wheel up for factioning if they don't kill it. So take the mech. I would really like the hive. but I cannot afford the hive. So I guess I will do the 11 points and see what happens on the next turn. What are they going to come up with? What are they going to come up with? They have 6 in here, so 11 with their hand. Boy, it's a very difficult one to estimate because of the variety of what's in there. I'm just going to have to wait and see what shows up. They're probably doing some more scrapping. I'm thinking it might be a little bit late in the game, at least for them, down to 15. I like my 34, and I'm going to go up a couple more points this next turn, since I've got, I believe that is 8 points of authority back from my factioning. Don't mind that at all. I will have enough to pick up the hive, which I really like. I'll probably never get around to playing it. I have a good chance of getting them down, but they are getting their deck a little leaner, so it might get tight quickly. I really have to go for the kill soon, but I don't have a lot of optional ways of bringing in extra damage, at least not that I've seen lately, and I'm not sure I have any of them in my deck. I would like to see that recycling station at some point. That would help a little bit, since I have not been able to thin out my deck very much. I've never factioned my green blob fighter for drawing a card. That's disappointing. Another reason I would not mind getting the hive out. And where else am I at? I'm not that high on damage, but if I could get a couple greens out, I would be a happy camper. Although they might get a pretty good turn this one. Oh, that is not the turn that I wanted to see from them. They factioned their blues. That was not bad at all. But what are you going to do? You are going to play what you have, since none of it matters for turn order. You are going to, and by you I mean me, you're going to buy the hive. You're going to see what comes up, and 2 is not really enough for anything, so I'm going to do those 2 points of damage, end my turn, and see what I get the next one. I don't mind that. Recycling station and some draw card ability. I may even recycle my missile bot, because 2 is not a whole lot of damage, and I might like what I have to draw better than that. In fact, the trade escort would be awesome to get. That would be 4 points of damage, which, seeing as I have 1, I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points of damage there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 if I still have my blob wheel out. And another 10 points of damage is going to be hard to get, but it might be feasible. I'm only going to get 2 from the missile bot, and at this point we're a little late in the game for scrapping. My biggest worry is that they get to do their thin deck for a couple more turns, heal up a bit, and do decent damage, and I just can't keep up with that. I gotta push this. I gotta get a decent amount done in a small amount of time. I think actually my blob fighter goes out first, triggers the draw, then my recycling station goes out. If my draw was crappy, that's at least one more thing that I can use the recycling station for to get a second shot. And if it's good, well, I can still go with the missile bot because it's a little lower on the totem pole for things that I would want to see right now. They did get that out, which, ooh, boy, that's a turn. That is a turn and a half. So I lost that point of damage, and I have to discard a card. That is not great at all for me. Boy, I really don't. I'm going to use both my greens, so I can do that. I'm going to scrap a card in the trade row. I think I'm going to... Actually, I'm going to cancel because there's nothing I want them getting. I'd rather this crap stays up at this point, I think. Do not use. Oh, that's the problem. That... And what do I have left? I have a trade escort and a scout. I'm not going to faction him. So actually at this point, I think I'm better off hoping I draw a blue within my next turn. And so scrap a card, scrap a scout. I've got 1 point of purchase power. I've got 2 points of purchase power, but I don't care. I'm not buying anything. I'm just getting rid of their port of call, doing a little bit of damage, ending the turn. Okay. I don't know what that little power icon was. I don't play that many online games on the computer. I usually play them on my phone, and I've never noticed it there before. So, okay, now the big question is, do I get to keep my recycling station? That's probably the question that means the game, and with what their deck has started to look like, I'd say the odds are low. It's possible if they get both their scouts in this next hand, I might be able to pull this off, but I have a feeling I am going to get a whopping amount of damage this turn, and I'm just not going to be able to keep up. I can't do quite enough. Anything is possible, though. It could happen. If I keep my recycling station out, I get rid of 2 scouts. Nope, not going to happen. Didn't think so. Yep, I knew I was in for a very bad turn. Okay, yeah, I got no faction abilities on any of this stuff, so I'm kind of screwed. I need to just go full bore for damage and play all and just hope I don't get turns this crappy anymore. I don't really want an explorer in my hand. I'm just going to do the 12 and hope I get one more turn that doesn't suck before they heal a whole bunch. Yes, I have unspent trade. That's okay. We're going to keep going. What do I have? I have the Hive. For 3, draw a card, and 4. So what is that? That is 3 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9 damage. And I'm going to get to draw a card. 9. If I drew Battle Pod, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 would be enough to do it if they don't heal too much. Except they have a base now. I did not catch that. I will scrap the scout. I don't care about the scout. I guess it comes down to what I get. I will get to scrap a card in the trade row. I don't want to use that. That might help me a little bit, but I was really hoping for some damage. 10 points is not horrible, but it is not nearly what I would like to get. I get to do 5 to them. They're probably going to have another huge turn here. Let's just end it and go on. I think this comes down to if I get one more turn I can win, and if I... Ugh. It's kind of another crappy draw though, isn't it? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If they don't heal, that's enough if they don't get any more bases out. But they basically have to have the crappiest turn they can have. Their deck's just too tight at this point. Too tight. I just didn't get there in time. This turn is going to finish it, I do believe. 90% chance with what they've got. In fact, all this slowness is probably me having lost the game. That's another bug that has been known to happen in Star Realms, is that when you lose the game, it doesn't always let you know. And then it won't let you see. I don't remember. Maybe it doesn't let you see the last turn. Maybe it does. I'm going to go to the menu. I'm going to leave game, and it's going to say that I lost, right? Yep. Their turn? No? Maybe they're just having issues. It's going to replay my turn since I'm rejoining the game. That's the last turn that was played. Maybe they're going to play soon. We shall see. I don't know. Maybe there are issues on the site. There were issues, I believe, about a week ago from when I'm recording. And I'm recording on Saturday. So, oh, no. now they're playing. Maybe it was temporary, or maybe they just needed to decide what they were doing. And yeah, that's probably it, because they had some complicated stuff going on. But they could only get me down to 15. I do have to discard one. So I'm discarding a scout. I guess I have another turn to live. Again, do not use. Scrap a card from your hand or discard pile. Scrap a scout. Doesn't really matter. There's not going to be enough turns more for that to matter. I don't like that they have Fleet HQ out. All your ships get 1. 2 cards left. I don't particularly like that. If they draw a bunch, that sucks. But I'm going to go for broke. Do it all there and see what happens. The recycling station could make this a possibility, but again, I thought they were going to get me last turn, so the chances that I'm not out this turn are probably pretty slim. I'm going to see their hand plus. Well, they could get a couple trade pods, which is 4 points of damage. And boy, if they split up their blues and yellows, I think I might be okay. Supply bot might be a nice thing to see too, because it's less damage. Depends on how much factioning goes on. 15 points is not a lot of damage for me to need to take to get into trouble. I'm not going to do any damage next turn unless I draw it with my unless I draw it with my recycling station, which I'm going to need desperately to do. I can't believe I've left the blob wheel around this long. They're just... I probably should have played some of those scrap in the trade row better. I thought I was going to be able to rush to get those last few points they had, and I didn't. But they're going to get at least... They didn't have any bases in here, did they? So, oh, they had 2. That's still at least 3 points of damage to me. Probably another 10 to 20, depending on how they faction. So I could either have just a couple points of authority left after this, or it could be the end. And again, I'm starting to wonder if we're at that point in the game where it's just not communicating my loss to me, or if it's just another difficult turn on Matt's part. I'm assuming Matt is the first name. I guess I can't really assume that. Who knows? Could just be made up. Saint Doodle is not what's on my birth certificate. I can tell you that much. But we shall see momentarily. And I think I'm going to try and back out to the menu in just a few seconds here if nothing happens. So let's back out to the menu and go back to play online. And I lost. That's what I thought would probably happen. Replay the last turn. Let's see what went on. Oh, recycling station. Yeah, they did get that. Oh, that's a lot of stuff. There is some damage. I lasted a turn or two longer than I thought I would, and only by 4 authority. Without knowing what my recycling station would have brought out for me, who knows what would have happened, but I don't think I would have gotten them. I think I got just a little too far behind and was not able to make it back in. So that is my first online game that I'm going to put up for you guys to watch. Please let me know what you think, what I should have done, what I did wrong, all my mistakes. I would love to learn what they were so that I can maybe make a few less of them the next time. But I will see you guys then. Later.